Welcome to Indie Beacon Radio, where creative souls can find help in marketing their creations. You can send questions for each show on Twitter using the hashtag IndieBeacon. Now sit back and enjoy learning about our guest for this show.
Good evening, y'all. This is awarded children's author, model, and speaker Shanley Charbonneau. This evening, I have the very talented Scott Bell on the phone. Good evening, Scott. How are you tonight?
Great, Shannon. Thank you for having me.
Wonderful, wonderful. So Scott wrote what I refer to as the Yeager trilogy. And what I can see about the Yeagers is that it's a couple that actually met. They fell in love, and they have come across anything from the native Hawaiians to cruises, potential cruises, to a lot of very spy and mysterious, as well as I almost want to say like I see FBI, CIA type of atmosphere. Why don't you explain a little bit about Abel and Charlotte Yeager?
Yeah, I'll give it a shot. Abel Yeager is a U.S. Marine veteran of Afghanistan, and he's introduced in Yeager's Law as a sort of a broke down his luck truck driver. And I found out after putting that combination together, there are actually a lot of Marines who become truck drivers for some reason. But so I lucked into that. But he inadvertently gets pulled into a scheme to rip off some cartel cash. And along the way, he meets his future bride-to-be, which is Charlotte Buchanan at the time. And she owns a bookstore, which plays a part in the story. And it turns out that the cartel is after the money, the schemers are after the money, and all Abel Yeager wants to do is get out alive. And so he and Charlotte team up, and they work together. And then, Charlotte has her own adventure throughout the book, and she has things that she has to get done in order to survive, and so does Abel Yeager. So that was where it started, and honestly, it was going to be a single standalone novel. I had no intention of turning it into a series, but my publisher and my tens of fans told me that they wanted to see the next book, so that generated Yeager's mission.
It's really great. It seems like the Yeagers are a couple that somebody could get really addicted to, trying to watch their relationship flourish and all the encounters that they have. So the first book started off Yeager's Law. Hey, can you explain a little bit about Yeager's Law and how they met and where it all started?
Sure. Well, the Yeager's Law, the title comes from sort of a set of rules that our title character, Abel Yeager, has developed in his lifetime in order to meet certain situations. And one of Yeager's laws is to get home at the end of the day, to come home, to stay alive, right? And you'll do whatever it takes in order to make that happen. And, of course, that's how why Charlotte, and she's nicknamed Charlie, by the way, when she gets in trouble on her own, she realizes she has to do some things that are pretty terrifying for her, and she has to do them in order to get home at the end of the day. And so, that's sort of the situation that developed the title, Yeager's Law. And they meet actually at a rest stop when Yeager is being confronted by somebody who is out of his past, and she rescues him. So, one of the things I wanted to do when I started writing was to make my female characters and the people in them to have some agency. I really don't like action books where women are just props and they turn to jelly at the first sign of trouble. So Charlotte is a tough woman who learns how to take care of business at the end of the day. So that's where those two characters are meant for each other.
Now, you mentioned the fact that it's definitely an action-packed book, kind of in the basis of the criminology theme. Why did you could have written about anything. Why did you get into this action series?
Well, I've always been a fan of that particular genre to start with, and when I was just a reader, I would say to you that I started reading a lot of bad novels in the genre that were, the prose was bad, the technical details of, the war-fighting details, if you will, were wrong. And I said before, the female characters were just hopeless. So, I just dove into the idea that I should be able to write a crime novel because I have a criminology background. I was a criminal justice major and 25 years in retail loss prevention, which is sort of a fraud prevention, shrinkage-related job. So I've been around the law enforcement world for a long time, so I picked up a lot of the details, and it felt right to be able to write a crime novel. It felt like something I could do, which is one of my failings. There's a lot of things I suddenly think I can do. I think I can rewire the entire house. I don't need an electrician. I can do that myself. And 172 trips to Home Depot later, the house is rewired. But it's a process that takes some time. And the same thing happened with writing. I was reading some number of really poorly written novels, and I can do better than that. So I dove into writing, and I picked the crime genre because I thought it was something I could sink my teeth into, and that I could write with some authority.
Well, and just so the audience knows, your ratings are, I think your lowest rating on anything you've written is like 4.11 stars, which is absolutely amazing. So, congrats on that. Obviously, you had a mission, and though it may have taken you 172 tries, and anything you've done, you've arrived and you've accomplished it. So congrats. And I love the name Charlie. I've actually got a second cousin named Charlie. She's only 6, and I can tell you she's not hopeless. She's always in danger, and she's always getting in trouble. So kudos to you on picking the right name on your character, because that's exactly what that child is.
Isn't that the case? I mean, have you ever known a woman in a situation of danger that didn't have an opinion on what should happen? So I just feel like there's a lot of writers out there that don't get that right. They think that they want their guys to be the hero of the day, which is fine, but I think that it's doing a disservice to women to write them that way. But
and they always get out alive if the guy listens to the woman too. So just good job on that one
right.
too.
That's right.
Things are well.
Guys. Pay attention. But I appreciate the comment about the reviews, because the first time that you tried to do something like this, and I was the same as a lot of first-time writers. I threw out my work to people and said, "Take a look at it, and tell me what you think." And of course, when we do it with our friends and our family, we get this is great. You should just write. That should be your career. You're doing a great job, and they all love it, and you get praise, and you feel like you're something special. You're the next sweet child. But what you really need are some people who can tell it like it is and not worry about hurting your feelings, and really give you helpful critiques. You need feedback. You need good feedback, and then once you figure out you're not something special at first, you're not going to win that Pulitzer on that first draft of your first novel. Then you start to get better. You go out and find ways to do that, and that's what I've tried to do. I've tried to take feedback and get a lot of critiques on my work and learn from some people who know what they're doing. So I'm really strong on I want to do the right thing as far as the craft is concerned. So. A little bit of a hobby horse of mine. So I won't belabor that point. But.
Wow. Congrats for getting that. And, obviously that has paid in dividends to you to be able to listen. Now, the book is set, what's interesting, obviously, as we are Texans, the book is, from my understanding, set in Texas, or there's many scenes in Texas. And that all kind of relates to why you named the Yeagers. Could you talk a little bit about your the Texas influence in your trilogy right now?
Yeah, absolutely, and I appreciate that, because I am a first-generation Texan, and I've lived here my entire life. So I've been steeped in the Texas mythology, ethos. What am I trying to say? I'm a Texan by God. I'll put it that way. And I certainly have bought into the entire Texas history, and I love the state, and I believe in the people here, some of the best people in the world. So it was an easy decision to set my characters as being Texan. Now, as you pointed out, the actual events in the novels happen in different locations, but the characters tend to retain their Texas values, if you will, throughout. So it was very important to me to make sure that I stayed true to that sort of history of Texan writers,
Yeah, and why Yeager? You could have named them, Smith or Rodriguez, or there's plenty of names here in Texas. Why Yeager?
Yeah, I have a side character, Victor Ruiz, also known as Poke, who's some of the comic relief. But yeah, Yeager came from the fact, one, as a writer, we're always trying to find just the right character name, right? So the reality is that I wanted a strong name, something that evoked strength, and of course, probably the most famous Yeager is Chuck Yeager, who was the guy that had the right stuff and so on. But there's also a large German influence in Texas, and the German name Yeager came to me as a great possibility for a character, and I looked for once again a strong name, one that I didn't have to write a lot of letters every time I typed it. So Abel was shortened from Abelard, which was a German name, and that's where the name Yeager came from to me. It felt like a strong character name.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now, are you German, or are you just the Germanic influence in Texas is what inspired you?
No, it's just the Germanic influence in Texas. I mean, I'm a mutt. I came from all sorts of different backgrounds, but not any German that I know of.
Wonderful, wonderful. So the next book is Yeager's Mission. And can you give a little bit about what that book it might be about before we cut to break?
Absolutely. Yeager's Mission is a story, and I wanted to tell a story, and I've been sort of in the back of my mind to tell a story that was similar in a lot of ways to the Magnificent Seven. Some of the same tropes and some of the same, small group of dedicated people fighting, a large horde of bad guys, right? And so what happens in Yeager's Mission is there's an orphanage in Mexico, and who doesn't want to protect orphans, right? So it's just one of those automatic things that you gotta help the orphans. And in this case, it was the earthquake sort of cut them off, and they were in the hands, if you will, of a cartel there in Mexico, and sort of controlling the drug routes through that area, through that territory. And so Yeager and his pal Victor go down there with a load of supplies for the orphans and get mixed up in fighting off these bad guys who were intent on taking everything that they brought in there, all the supplies.
Wow. So is Abel and Charlie married at this point, or are they not married? Maybe I'm blowing up. Maybe I should have said, alert.
Right. No, that's fine. They are engaged.
Okay, wonderful.
And
let's do this.
Abel goes off on his own. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Wonderful. No worries, Scott. Let's hold that little nugget of information until we return. So we are talking to wonderful author Scott Bell, and we're going to continue about the Yeager's Mission.
A new online bookstore, IndieLector.store, is unlike any other. IndieLector.store offers great prices from top indie authors and supports authors at the same time by paying them more for their books. IndieLector.store has a readers club that gives you free books and special deals. Watch the IndieLector.store continue to grow before it opens in the fall of 2019 at IndieLector.store.
Howdy, I'm John Cruder, the Midnight Marauder. I guess you might say that I'm a vigilante who rights the wrongs I see along my many travels to balance the scales of justice, especially those of the corrupt and murderous members of the Town Council of Bandera, Texas. You can follow my many adventures in a series of Midnight Marauder books written by Roy Clinton on Amazon.com and TopWesterns.com. Or if you prefer, listen to my adventures in audiobook form by downloading them from audible.com or iTunes. This is R. William James, the voice of the Midnight Marauder.
Do you love to read great new ebooks? Visit ebg247.com. Be the first to discover the next bestseller. At ebg247, we have the web's largest selection of great new book reads, from that amazing new fiction or nonfiction to horror, romance, and fantasy. We even have today's best children's books. That's ebg247.com. New books arrive daily, and all ebooks start at just 99 cents. If you love to read, then you'll love ebg247.com. Low prices, large selection, and an easy-to-use website. It's all only at ebg247.com.
I am Grace Allison Blair, an award-winning author, motivational speaker, and modern mystic. I have combined spiritual and psychological principles in my nonfiction self-help books under Grace Allison and fiction books under Grace Blair. Go to modernmysticmedia.com to find Do You Have a Dream? 5 Keys to Realize Your Dream, and my novel, Einstein's Compass, a YA time traveler adventure.
Welcome to Indie Beacon Radio, where creative souls can find help in marketing their creations. You can send questions for each show on Twitter using the hashtag IndieBeacon. Now sit back and enjoy learning about our guest for this show.
Welcome back, y'all. This is awarded children's author and, most importantly, your radio host for this evening, Shanley Charbonneau. I am talking to the very talented Scott Bell, who wrote the Yeager's trilogy. We have covered these very interesting characters of Abel and Charlotte Yeager. They met in his first book called Yeager's Law. We are now moving on to Yeager's Mission. Welcome back, Scott.
Thank you very much.
Sure, absolutely. So in the mission, are they married yet? Have we gotten there?
They are in, we'll get to that point. Yeah, they're engaged, and Abel is a little bit reluctant to take on this mission, and but he does get convinced by his good friend Victor. Victor has been his lifelong buddy and is very much a player in the novels, and he winds up getting actually quite an expanded role in Yeager's mission. But he and Abel go to Mexico to help the orphans. Like I said, I mean, who can resist helping orphans, right? So
right.
There is an orphan in the story that has his own minor part to play, and he gets quite a bit of screen time, if you will. And then Charlie gets to stay home, and she actually has some adventures of her own during the time that she's there on her own that she has to deal with. So once again, I'm not letting her just sit by the fire. She has some disasters and some troubles to deal with while she's waiting there at home. Some stuff that crept over from the previous novel. So a little bit of intrigue that she's involved in there.
So what type of trouble are they getting in around this orphanage, just trying to attempt to save them? What type of mysteries and wonderful follies are they getting into?
Wow. Okay, that's going to be tough to answer because there's a lot. I mean, first of all, we have an issue with one of the priests that are running the mission, running the orphanage, if you will. He is not doing some of the things he should be doing, and then we've got some folks that are trying to, like I said, steal the things that are in the mission, in the orphanage, all the treasures and supplies and everything else that are in the mission. And it's, of course, there's an evil bad guy who is sort of making this his personal mission, if you will, to get what he wants, get his way. And of course, Abel Yeager and Victor Ruiz are standing in his way, and they wind up having to pitch battle, if you will, to stop him from getting what he wants and stop him from hurting the orphans.
Now, you kind of talked a little bit about your first life before you decided to really take writing as one of your main parts of your day. So what did you do, and how does that incorporate into the Yeagers and kind of what they get themselves into?
Well, to answer the second part of that question first, the answer is nothing. There's nothing in my life today that matches up with what these poor folks are having to put up with. But as I mentioned, my first part of my career, my first career really was 25 years in loss prevention and in the retail world. And the last company I was with went bankrupt. So I looked around, and if you refer back to the first part of the conversation, I thought, oh, I can do that. I decided to try my hand at a different career, which is sales. So now I'm in sales full-time. I started out in sales in a role of security integration. So we're talking about alarms and CCTV and things that I had some familiarity with, which, some of those items actually wind up being part of Yeager's Law. So if you read that book, you may spot my knowledge of camera systems in there at some point in time. You go, oh, that's where you got that. But I've morphed my sales career and after my 172 tries. Now I'm settled with a new company that I work full-time for, and I sneak away in the evenings and try to catch up with the Yeagers and whomever else I might be writing about.
It's very exciting. I think, it's amazing stories about authors and how they get to the point of creating their story. And it to me, for you, what's amazing is that you actually took something that you took very professionally and you made a living off of and put this twist on it that was kind of on steroids, if you will, and take it into a dark alley and fight for what's right. And that's just, to me, very amazing. And I don't know if anybody's told you that, but I can hear, the person, who's really been serious about security take it to Mexico. To an orphanage and see what that looks like, right? So good work on that. Well, it could have totally been boring, but you made a great story out of it.
Authors always, we're readers too, right? So we write the stories we want to read, at least I do. And there's some things I thought that were important to tell, but it was writing the story that I wanted to read. So I enjoy the writing part of it as much as a lot of people enjoy the reading part of it.
So your last
book,
go
on adventures too.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I said I get to go on adventures too.
Yay!
With my characters.
with the Yeagers in your mind. With the Yeagers in mind.
I let them be my. I live vicariously through them. I let them take all the heat, and then I just sit back and torture them. Right.
Very interesting. That's awesome. So you just came out with the third book, just hot off the presses and released, called Yeager's Getaway. Correct, right?
Correct. Yes, that's right.
Wonderful. So where are we now? Are we concluding anything? Are we solving anything? What are the Yeagers up to?
Well, the Yeagers have been married a little bit at this point in time, and they are on a much-delayed honeymoon in a small ship doing the cruises of the Hawaiian Islands. And unbeknownst to them, there is a separatist movement that is being induced by a foreign government to commit some acts of terror. So we have a native Hawaiian group who has decided that they want to make some noise and bring some attention to the plight of the native Hawaiians, which oddly enough I found out when I was looking at doing some research for all the. The Hawaiian natives do not enjoy the same privileges as the indigenous people of the continental U.S. In terms of, and I say enjoy privileges, that's probably not the way to say that, but they certainly are not recognized the same way as the Cherokee, the Iroquois, or some of the other indigenous peoples of the continental U.S. So, and they've been fighting fighting is probably too strong, because they're a very peaceful people in Hawaii, and they would never do the horrible things I have them do. But the fact is, they've been struggling for some time to get some recognition for their native people there. They were there before, the white folk came and sort of imposed our will upon them.
Wow. So where are you heading next? Do you have any appearances? I'm sure you got plenty of them, but what's the most recent? Where can people find you next?
The next place I'm going to be is Alexis Estates in Allen, Texas, in a retirement community there. I have a small fan base of people who are influenced by my top two salespeople, my mother and father, and they have helped out tremendously in getting a lot of sweet little grandmothers to read my work and become involved, and they really seem to enjoy it. So I'll be doing a book signing from 10 o'clock until 2 o'clock this Saturday at the Lexus Estates in Allen.
Wonderful. And where are your books available, dear?
They are available through Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com, Kobo, iBooks, and, of course, the publisher's website, Radion Publishing. And they are
and your
available
website?
in Kindle or, snapshooterforhire.com. And that's the number 4 in there for 4. Snapshooter4hire.com. That was from the time that I thought, I can take pictures too. I can do that. So it's another one of those, I can do that. So that's sort of a holdover from when I was a photographer. Yeah. Well, this is why I'm writing now, because I really couldn't do that. But anyway, wonderful. That's the short story.
So your next book, are we coming out with a fourth book? Are you going to end with the trilogy?
No, there's probably a fourth one for the Yeager. There's also, I have a standalone sci-fi novel that's published, and I have a 3-book series that I've contracted for that is involving a Texas Ranger and a female New York FBI agent. So I've got a gal from the Bronx, once again, a tough little lady, and a strong male character by the name of Sam Cable. And we're going to have a Texas Ranger series cranking out in 2019. I hope to have 3 more novels published in that series, all of them in 2019.
Wow. Well, I can't thank you enough, Scott, for really honoring women and the role that they play in everyday life, even if the Yeagers are not real characters. They're real women out there every day. And as an Irish in disguise, there's a lot of Irish women out there that can attest to always knowing where to lead the family. So thank you for that. My name, again, is Shannalee Charbonneau, awarded author, model, and speaker, speaking with the 4-star and above author of Scott Bell, discussing his trilogy, Yeager's Getaway, his newest release. Thank you, Scott. You have a wonderful night.
Thank you. Take care.
Hello, Texas authors. My name is Randy James, coming to you from my Carrollton recording studio, where I spend time writing and producing commercials for my radio endorsement clients, as well as my private freelance clients. I'd like the opportunity to help you sell more books with a commercial like this and get listeners of Dear Texas Radio excited about your title, all at a special introductory price, available to members of the Texas Association of Authors. Call or text 214-762-1942. That's 214-762-1942. Headlines. Cryptocurrency vultures are circling around failing governments. Darknet predators are rushing to market with their newest digital product. They promise economic salvation, even as they coupon clips straight from your digital wallet. The newest techno-thriller installment from Brakefield and Berkey, The Enigma Source. Book 10 of the Enigma series continues the combat of cyber good guys versus cyber thugs set in today's digital landscape. Thank you for listening to Indie Beacon Radio, where creative souls can find help in marketing their creations. To learn more about Indie Beacon services, to be a guest on the show, or to advertise on our show, please visit our website at indiebeacon.com.